What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Benchwarmers. Today, we're going to be reacting to the All-Star starters that just got released. So let's start with the guards from the East.
The Eastern Conference has had a lot more talent, especially this year. The people who were ultimately chosen as the starters were from the Washington Wizards, Bradley Beal, and Kyrie Irving from the Brooklyn Nets. This is quite interesting because the players, fans, and media all agreed that he was number one, but the players and fans had him at two. The media, obviously, Kyrie's not the best with the media, had him at four, and instead had Jaylen Brown as a starter. I think even though Bradley Beal was the leading scorer in the NBA, averaging 33 a game, some people had a bit of worries about him being a starter, especially considering how bad the Wizards are doing this season and how underperforming they are. But I think it's still warranted considering the difficulty being on as bad a team as Wizards, have people double teaming you constantly to still shoot like 33 points a game. And he was at 36 points a game when most of the voting was occurring um, on such an efficient shooting splits. So I think Bradley Beal deserves it. Kyrie Irving, there's a bit of a question because he sort of did go AWOL for 2 weeks. But I think his stats, his efficiency, and the fact that the Nets did quite well with him on the court is proof that he should be an all-star starter. Personally, I'd have Jaylen Brown as third, even though James Harden ultimately ended up being the third most weighted person, I guess you could say. So he probably will be the top East guard on the bench. I would personally have Jaylen Brown over him since the Celtics were doing really well when he was on the court, and he's had such an improvement. He's averaging like 26 points a game on very good efficiency.
Yeah, I completely agree with the two that ended up being chosen. Kyrie is, I think Bradley Beal's the obvious one, but I think Kyrie as well. He's shooting basically 50, 40, 90, 90. He's actually shooting 89.9 from the free throw, which is pretty unfortunate. I think that's actually what happened to like Chris Middleton last year or something. Um, but yeah, he's been playing great this year. But next we have the front court for the East, and the players that were ultimately chosen were were Giannis, Joel Embiid, and Kevin Durant. I think these three were pretty much the obvious picks. And then in the fourth place, there was also Jason Tatum, but he wasn't really close in the fan voting. I think pretty much all of these are pretty obvious. KD's the leading scorer. Embiid is arguably defensive player of the year so far, or up there. And Giannis is just, he's two-time MVP, and he's still performing at a really solid level.
Now we move on to the West, and we start with the West guards. The West guards who were voted in are Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic. The fans had Steph at one, Luka at two. The players and media had Steph at one, Damian Lillard at two, and Luka Doncic at three. I personally would have gone with the players and media and against the rest of the fans in having Damian Lillard second and Luka Doncic third. I honestly think Damian Lillard is as much of has as much of an MVP shot as Stephen Curry, considering their averages are very similar, and Dame's team is doing a bit better than Steph's team, and he's been without CJ McCollum for most of the past 2 months. So honestly, I think he probably is a top five MVP candidate at this point. Additionally, Luka's efficiency hasn't been the greatest. The Mavs are currently 13 and 15 as we are recording, which puts them at the 10 seed in the West, which isn't good, especially considering how good they were last year, how much promise they showed, and especially many people thinking that they would jump to the third or fourth seed this season. I think that the All Star starters should not have been Steph and Luka, but instead should have been Steph and Dame. I think it shouldn't be even close in that regard.
Yeah, like something really weird. I don't really get this about the voting. It's a bit interesting to me. Um, so even though they already give the fans more weight than both the players and the media, even though they ended up actually being tied in the overall weighted score, they still gave the tiebreaker to the fans, which is just like weird because they already give the fans more weight. Um, I think they probably should have just uh, given it to Dame because the players and the media had him higher. Um, but yeah, that's just my opinion.
Personally, I had Luca above Dame, but based on what the rankings were, I feel like Dame probably should have gotten in. But if you just think about it and you're Adam Silver, you're the commissioner of the NBA, I feel like there may have been a little bit of collusion going on just because it makes a lot more economic sense to have a player like Luca, who's a young star that the fans love, becoming an all-star compared to Dame, who's still a great player, but he's a little bit older and he's been like, losing in the playoffs a lot. Makes a lot more sense to have Luca. But I think that's still a decent pick. I'm not too upset about it by any means. But now let's move on to the West front court. The three players that were voted in were LeBron, Jokic, and Kawhi in that order. LeBron was unanimously ranked first by the fans, media, and players. Jokic was unanimously ranked second by the fans, media, and players. But Kawhi was not unanimously voted. There's a little bit of competition between him and AD. But one interesting thing to note about Jokic was that as I said before, he was ranked second. But I feel like he's the best player this season, given that he's averaging 27 points per game. He's shooting around 57% from the field, 40.4% from the three. He's basically averaging a triple double along with 1.7 steals, and he's carrying the entire Nuggets. I think he should have gone first, but LeBron is LeBron, and everyone loves LeBron. And I think Jokic should have been the first pick, but it's not really a big deal because they're both starters. But that may have something to do with how he's a little bit younger and he's not as famous to someone that may not know the NBA as well as like some real fans. And the Nuggets are only 16 and 13. As for Kawhi versus AD, I think going with Kawhi was the right pick. It's kind of a similar situation to LeBron and Jokic, just because AD may have won the championship last year and he may be on the better team that has a better record. I think that doesn't mean that he should become an all-star right away because his stats aren't exceedingly impressive. He's playing good defense, but only averaging 22 points and 8 rebounds, whereas Kawhi is basically carrying the Clippers. PG is good, but Kawhi is still the best player. He is averaging 27 points per game, very efficient shooting, and 6 rebounds and 5 assists with great defense. So I think it makes a lot more sense to go with Kawhi, but I could see why AD would be voted in.
All right, so that wraps it up for our reaction. I think in general we agreed with mostly everything, but let us know which picks you disagreed with or agreed with. But this is the Benchwarmers signing off. See you.